Give me less than 10 minutes and I'll tell you exactly why you're not rich. And no, it's not because you're not disciplined. It's not because you didn't hustle hard enough or because you don't read enough self-help books. That's what they want you to believe. But the truth is much darker. You're not rich because the system isn't built for you to be rich. In fact, it needs you to stay poor. It depends on it. Because capitalism at its core requires a permanent underclass of people who consume endlessly, who work tirelessly, and who never realize that the game was rigged from the beginning. The system thrives on inequality. That's not a bug, it's the design. Capitalism needs a mass of poor people to function. Without poverty, the machine breaks. Let's start with a simple truth. In capitalism, wealth doesn't just appear, it's extracted. The wealth of the rich is built on the labor of the poor. Every billion-dollar fortune is made possible by underpaid workers, outsourced labor, and mass consumption. And the moment you stop consuming, the engine starts to sputter. That's why you're bombarded with ads 24/7. That's why everything is designed to be addictive. Your food, your entertainment, your apps. You are not seen as a person in this system. You're a consumer, a worker, a revenue source. The more dependent you are on wages, on credit, on distractions, the easier you are to control. And they've engineered it that way. Think about school. What did they teach you about money? Taxes, wealth, ownership? Nothing. Instead, you learned how to obey. Show up on time, memorize the textbook, follow the rules, be average. But they didn't prepare you for freedom. They trained you for employment. They trained you to be useful to corporations, not to yourself. The rich send their kids to schools that teach leadership, investing, strategy. You were taught how to sit still and wait for permission. And when you finally enter the workforce, what do you get? A wage just high enough to serve, just low enough to keep you coming back. That's not an accident. That's economic control. They tell you to work hard, but the harder you work, the more they benefit. If labor made people rich, construction workers would be billionaires. If discipline made you wealthy, single moms working 2 jobs would be on Forbes. But they're not, because effort isn't what the system rewards. Ownership is. Capitalism rewards those who own capital, land, machines, shares, data. And who owns all that? The top 1%. And who rents it, uses it, pays for it? Everyone else. You're not poor because you're lazy. You're poor because someone else owns everything and you're forced to pay them just to live. Rent, loans, insurance, fees, it never stops. You spend your whole life working and still have nothing to show for it. Now let's talk about debt. They told you debt is bad, irresponsible, but then they sold you credit cards, student loans, car loans, mortgages. Debt is not just tolerated in capitalism, it's encouraged. Because the more debt you have, the more locked into the system you are. You become predictable, controllable. You won't quit that job you hate if you've got bills to pay. You won't rebel if your survival depends on staying in line. And the irony? The wealthy use debt too, but they use it to acquire assets. They borrow millions to buy buildings, companies, influence. And they pay back less than you ever will. Because they understand leverage. You were taught fear, they were taught strategy, and then there's consumption. Capitalism doesn't survive unless people keep buying things they don't need with money they don't have. You're taught from birth that happiness comes from products, shoes, gadgets, subscriptions, lifestyles. But it's a lie. You don't become fulfilled through consumption. You become addicted. You chase dopamine hits, fast fashion, fast food, fast content. And while you're busy consuming, the rich are accumulating. They own the brands, the platforms, the pipelines. Every dollar you spend goes up the chain, and they reinvest it, not in you, but in systems that extract even more from you next time. Now let's look at taxes. You work, you pay. Simple. But the rich, they don't get rich through wages, they get rich through assets. And assets are taxed differently, or not at all. They use loopholes, shelters, foundations, offshore accounts. You follow the rules, they write them. You're audited. They're bailed out. Capitalism doesn't punish the greedy, it rewards them. The more ruthless, the more efficient, the more exploitative. They're the ones who rise, not because they're better, but because they're playing a different game. You were taught to play fair in a system that rewards cheating. Still think this is about discipline? You could wake up at 4 a.m. every day, never miss a day of work, save every dollar, and still die broke. Not because you failed, but because the system was never designed to let you win. Capitalism needs you in debt. It needs you dependent. It needs you exhausted. Because if you had real freedom, financial freedom, you wouldn't put up with any of this. You wouldn't clock in. You wouldn't stay quiet. You wouldn't accept being owned. So they sell you the fantasy of upward mobility. Work hard and one day you might make it, but most never do. Because statistically, structurally, systemically, it's a lie. So what now? First, understand this. The system isn't broken. It's working exactly as intended. You were never meant to be rich. You were meant to be productive, obedient, and replaceable. But now that you know, you have a choice. You can keep playing the game, hoping for a miracle. Or you can step back, study the system, and learn how to escape it. That doesn't mean you'll overthrow capitalism, but it does mean you can start building within it. Start owning, start investing, start questioning, and start teaching others. Because if enough people wake up, the game changes. You're not poor because you're lazy. You're poor because capitalism requires it. But once you see the machine, you can stop being a cog. You can become the one who builds, owns, and controls. And that's when everything changes. Now that you understand the truth, that capitalism isn't broken but working exactly as designed, the next question is, how do you escape a system that needs you to stay poor? You see, the trap isn't just economic, it's mental. From the moment you're born, the system conditions you to believe that being broke is your fault. That if you're not rich, you just didn't work hard enough. But that's the cover story. The truth is, capitalism requires inequality. It feeds on it. A few people must own everything: land, labor, production, attention. And the rest must sell their time, their focus, even their identity, just to survive. But here's the paradox. While the system is rigged, it also contains the tools to escape it. If you stop playing by their rules. First, you need to stop thinking like a consumer. This is critical. You were trained to crave new phones, new clothes, new dopamine. But the wealthy don't chase products, they chase power. They buy things that generate income: stocks, real estate, businesses, media. Ownership is the key. If you're not owning, you're being owned. Every dollar you spend is either making someone else rich or building your own freedom. The poor buy things, the rich buy systems. Choose wisely. Second, stop believing a job will save you. Jobs are designed to keep you surviving, not thriving. They're just economic leashes. The moment you stop producing, you stop earning. You were told a job equals stability, but that's a lie. It's dependency. Use your job to fund your escape, not to build your identity. Learn a skill the market values, something that gives you leverage. Leverage is how you stop trading time for money. Without it, you're always replaceable. Third, learn the rules the rich actually follow. They don't pay taxes the way you do. They don't save money in banks. They don't panic in recessions. They buy. They understand cycles, systems, incentives. And the crazy part? Most of this information is public. They're not hiding it. They're just betting you'll stay too distracted to notice. Don't give them that satisfaction. Learn, apply, build. Fourth, stop waiting for permission. School taught you to ask for approval before taking action. That's over. In the real world, action is the approval. The internet has made gatekeepers irrelevant. You can learn, create, earn, and scale without waiting. That's your superpower. But only if you use it. Start a project, build something, fail fast, learn faster. You don't need perfect, you need momentum. Finally, remember this. Escaping the system isn't about becoming a billionaire. It's about buying back your time, reclaiming your mind, gaining control. When you own your income, your attention, your time, the system loses its grip on you. You stop being a cog. You start becoming the player. Because the truth is, capitalism only works for those who understand it. Everyone else gets used by it. But you've already taken the first step. You're awake. Now it's time to act.